May 20th, 2025. Employees of Builder.ai join an emergency video town hall. The company was once valued at roughly $1.5 billion. It raised $445 million. Microsoft invested. Qatar's sovereign wealth fund led its biggest round. And on this call, a new chief executive tells roughly 1,000 people that the company is insolvent, effective immediately. Within days, a single claim goes viral. The AI was fake. 700 Indian engineers had been typing code behind the curtain, pretending to be a machine. The story rockets through social media and lands in headlines around the world. Here's the problem. Parts of that claim were verified years earlier. Parts of it appear to have never been true at all. And the thing that actually killed the company barely involved artificial intelligence. This is the real story of Builder.ai, and why the myth about its death might matter more than the collapse itself. Rewind to 2016. A London entrepreneur named Sachin Dev Dugal founds a company called Engineer.ai. His pitch is irresistible. Building an app should be as easy as ordering pizza. You describe what you want. The platform assembles it from pre-coded building blocks, login screens, payment systems, chat features, with artificial intelligence orchestrating the process and a global network of developers filling the gaps. Dougal gives himself an official title, Chief Wizard. It sounds like a joke, but it's on the legal filings. The timing is perfect. Software is eating the world, developers are expensive, and every business on Earth wants an app. Investors love a story where technology replaces labor because that's where the margins live. By 2018, the company has raised $29.5 million in one of Europe's largest Series A rounds. The wizard has his wand. What he doesn't have, according to people inside the building, is the magic. In August 2019, the Wall Street Journal publishes an investigation. Citing current and former employees, it reports that Engineer.ai was exaggerating its use of artificial intelligence, and that most of the actual coding was being done by human engineers, largely in India. The same year, the company's former chief business officer files a lawsuit alleging the celebrated technology was, in his words, smoke and mirrors. The company pushes back, arguing its AI referred to automation in pricing and project assembly, not code that wrote itself. Now pause here. This is the verified kernel of everything that comes later. In 2019, credible reporting established that humans were doing most of the work while the marketing said AI. That fact was public, printed, and searchable, which makes what happens next remarkable. Because the money didn't stop. The money got bigger. The company rebrands as Builder.ai, a fresh coat of paint over the old questions. In March 2022, Insight Partners leads a $100 million Series C. Then comes the masterstroke. May 23, a $250 million round led by the Qatar Investment Authority, and alongside it, an equity investment and partnership from Microsoft, which publicly praises Builder.ai's approach to AI-powered software development. The valuation reportedly reaches around $1.5 billion. Total funding, $445 million. Think about what that Microsoft logo does. Every enterprise customer, every journalist, every smaller investor now has a shortcut. Surely Microsoft checked. This is how credibility compounds in venture capital. Each backer becomes evidence for the next. The 2019 exposé fades into background noise. ChatGPT has just detonated across the industry, and Builder.ai looks like it was years early to the trend. In reality, according to later reporting, the foundation was already rotten, just not where everyone was looking. In September 2021, Builder.ai had launched Natasha, billed as the world's first AI product manager. The company claimed its technology could complete at least 80% of an app on its own. So was Natasha real? Here, the record gets genuinely interesting. Reporting by the Pragmatic Engineer, based on interviews with former Builder.ai engineers, found that Natasha was real software, a code generation system built by a small team using large language models including GPT and Claude that could plan features and generate code. Rest of World reported that in practice it produced mostly front-end code that humans had to verify. while what the company called capacity partners, outsourced development firms with hundreds of engineers across India, Ukraine, Vietnam, Romania, and Poland, handled most of the customized work. So the honest summary is this: real AI existed. Humans did most of the work. The marketing described a ratio that former employees say the technology never achieved. Now forget the robots, because the most consequential machine at Builder.ai was the one generating revenue figures. In 2025, Bloomberg reported that Builder.ai had told investors it generated around $220 million in revenue for 2024, and that the real figure was later estimated at roughly $55 million. Prior year sales of about $180 million were reportedly restated to around $45 million. Read those numbers again. That's not rounding error. That's a company reporting roughly 4 times its actual sales, according to the reporting. And here's a detail that should haunt every investor who wired money. Bloomberg noted the company had operated without a chief financial officer for an extended period before the end. $1 billion valuation, sovereign wealth money, a Microsoft partnership, and nobody permanently occupying the chair whose job is making sure the numbers are real. If you're wondering how revenue gets inflated that dramatically, the next allegation is the darkest part of this story. On May 30th, 2025, Bloomberg published an investigation alleging that Builder.ai and Versi Innovation, the Indian company behind the news app Daily Hunt, had engaged in what's known as round-tripping. According to Bloomberg sources and documents, between 2021 and 2024, the two companies billed each other roughly similar amounts, around $60 million each way, for services that sources alleged were never actually rendered. A way to book revenue that looks real to auditors and investors. Versi called the allegations absolutely baseless and false. And to be clear, these are allegations from press reporting. No court has ruled on them, and no individual has been convicted of anything. But the claims did not stay in the newspapers. Bloomberg also reported that federal prosecutors in New York had subpoenaed Builder.ai, seeking its financial statements and customer lists. By then, inside the company, the ending had already begun. In early 2025, Dougal steps down as chief executive, though he keeps the chief wizard title, and Manpreet Ratia takes over. Ratia inherits a crime scene of accounting, cuts around 270 jobs, and starts uncovering the gap between reported and actual revenue. Then comes the kill shot. Builder.ai had borrowed $50 million from Viola Credit. When the revenue restatement surfaced, the lender reportedly seized about $37 million from the company's accounts, leaving roughly $5 million, much of it in restricted accounts the company couldn't touch. No cash means no payroll. No payroll means no company. On May 20th, Ratia announces insolvency at that emergency town hall. Entities across 5 countries enter proceedings. The website goes dark. Around 200 creditors line up. A company that spent 9 years and nearly $500 million promising to automate software development couldn't survive 5 weeks once its own numbers were audited honestly. Now, the meme. Within days of the collapse, posts claiming Builder.ai's AI was actually 700 Indian engineers pretending to be a bot exploded across social media and into mainstream headlines. But reporting by the Financial Times traced the viral version to a single social media post from an account with no inside sourcing, amplified by a finance newsletter writer to hundreds of thousands of followers, and then repeated, largely unchecked, by news outlets worldwide. The pragmatic engineer, after interviewing former Builder.ai engineers, concluded the literal claim was false. There was no call center of humans typing responses while pretending to be Natasha. What was true, verified by the Wall Street Journal back in 2019 and by former employees since is that hundreds of outsourced engineers did most of the real development work while the company marketed itself as AI-powered. The lie the internet loved was fake humans. The lie the record supports was fake proportions and fake revenue. Builder.ai is not an isolated case. It's the flagship of a category regulators now call AI washing. In March 2024, the SEC charged 2 investment firms, Delphia and Global Predictions, for making false claims about their use of AI. The agency's first pure AI washing enforcement actions. In April 2025, federal prosecutors charged the founder of Nate, a shopping app that claimed its checkout ran on artificial intelligence. The indictment alleges the transactions were actually completed manually by workers in the Philippines. The pattern is structural, not personal. Attach the letters A and I to a company, and, in this market, its valuation multiplies. That premium creates a direct financial incentive to exaggerate, and until recently, almost no one was checking. The SEC's own leadership has warned that AI washing may become this cycle's signature securities fraud, the way revenue round-tripping defined the dot-com bust. Builder.ai allegedly managed to combine both. So let's reframe the opening. The internet's verdict was that Builder.ai died because its AI was secretly human. The documented record says something more uncomfortable. It died because its revenue was allegedly fiction, its governance was hollow, and investors with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake didn't act on a red flag that a newspaper had printed 6 years earlier. That's the lesson that generalizes. In an AI gold rush, the scarcest resource isn't intelligence, artificial or otherwise, it's verification. Every pitch deck in the industry now claims AI does the work. The Builder.ai story is what happens when nobody asks to see the ratio or the bank statements. The technology was real. The demand was real. The numbers were not. And somewhere right now, another company is raising money on the same blur. If you want to see these collapses coming before the headlines do, subscribe. The next episode of Collapse is already in production.